Am I the man makeover of the week? Are you serious?
Yeah.
So I love my man, but what you mean, but?
For 17 years, Steve Harvey called Marjorie the woman who saved his life. He adopted her children. He defended her publicly. He built an empire with her name attached to it. Then at 68 years old, after everything they had survived together, something happened inside that marriage that changed everything. The man who preached loyalty louder than anyone in entertainment was suddenly walking away. And what triggered it is not what you think. The storm that tried to burn everything down. In the second week of August 2023, an anonymous post had spread from Twitter to YouTube to Facebook and was being treated as confirmed news. Steve Harvey had allegedly caught his wife, Marjorie, cheating with two members of his own household staff, his bodyguard and his personal chef, both men he had trusted with his most private world for years. The bodyguard at the center of it all was a man named William Freeman, known publicly as Big Boom. What made this particular rumor so devastating was a detail most people never knew. Big Boom was not just a hired security guard. He was the man who had personally reconnected Steve and Marjorie in 2005 after years apart. He was the very reason their marriage existed in the first place. The irony was brutal, and the internet leaned into every inch of it. Harvey was in Atlanta at InvestFest when the pressure finally became impossible to ignore. He walked on stage, and instead of starting his scheduled remarks, he stopped and looked directly at the crowd. His voice was calm, but you could hear something tight underneath it. He said, "Before I get started, just let me say, I'm fine. Marjorie's fine. I don't know what y'all are doing, but find something else to do because we're fine. Lord, have mercy. I sure wish I could cuss, though." The crowd laughed and applauded. Marjorie posted a Bible verse on Instagram and a single caption saying she and her husband did not usually stop to address foolishness and lies. Then she went completely silent on social media for 3 full months. Then, Nigerian Senator Ned Nwoko publicly confirmed he had spoken directly to Harvey and that the entire story was fabricated. And still the rumors kept circulating on podcasts and in comment sections for months after that. What nobody talked about was the deeper pattern underneath this moment. Steve Harvey had spent his entire public life building a reputation as a family man. He had sold millions of books about relationships. He had pointed to his marriage as proof that a broken man could be completely fixed. All of that made him a perfect target. When you stand on a stage and tell millions of people you have the answers, the world waits patiently for the moment it can prove you wrong. At the Griot Awards in November 2023, Harvey accepted an award, and his voice cracked noticeably when he talked about Marjorie. He said, "That woman right there's been down with me like 4 flat tires. 85% of what you know about me happened after I married that girl right there." There was no performance in it. The emotion was entirely real. The couple celebrated their 18th wedding anniversary in June 2025 with photographs from Lake Como in Italy. But to understand why this scandal hit as hard as it did, and why the public was so ready to believe every word of it without a single piece of evidence, you need to understand something most people never knew. Before the world ever heard the name Marjorie Harvey, Steve had already left a trail of broken marriages, bitter courtrooms, and a $60 million lawsuit that came close to erasing everything he had built. And the woman behind that lawsuit was willing to sit in a jail cell rather than stay quiet. 3 women, 3 wars. Steve Harvey has been married 3 times. This is not a footnote in his story. It is the emotional backbone of everything he has built and everything he has been accused of. Each marriage reveals a different version of who he was, and taken together, they explain why a single deleted tweet could shake his entire public identity all the way to its foundation. His first wife was Marsha Harvey. They married in 1981 when Steve was still selling insurance and had never stepped onto a comedy stage. They had twin daughters, Brandy and Carly, born in August of 1982, and a son named Broderick Harvey Jr., born in 1991. The marriage collapsed as his career began to stay. The comedy road demanded everything. It demanded nights, weekends, and the kind of emotional availability a young family desperately needs to survive. Marsha raised all 3 children alone after their divorce was finalized in 1994. Harvey fell so far behind on child support that a judge ordered him to pay more than $36,000 in backdated amounts. Marcia never gave a single interview. She wrote 3 self-published books, remarried, and moved forward quietly. The shadow of that first abandoned family never fully left his public record. His second marriage was to Mary Lee Shackelford. They married in 1996 after meeting in Arlington, Texas in 1989. They had one son, Winton Harvey, born in July of 1997. Harvey later admitted he had entered the marriage for entirely the wrong reasons. He said in a People interview, "I was tired of being alone. I have to own that. It was me, not her, but it was bad for a long time." The divorce was finalized in November of 2005 on grounds of irreconcilable differences. Court records showed Mary received $40,000 per month until 2009, a lump sum of $1.5 million, and 3 separate properties. Harvey received primary custody of Winton. What followed lasted more than a decade and involved a jail sentence, a $60 million lawsuit, and one of the most publicly bitter divorce aftermaths in the history of American entertainment. In January of 2011, Mary posted YouTube videos that collected more than 200,000 views. She claimed Harvey had cheated with Marjorie throughout their entire marriage and that she had intercepted love letters between them on her own wedding anniversary. She described years of bullying from Harvey and his entire team. Harvey's legal team pointed directly to court filings that contradicted every major claim. She was not homeless, and she was not destitute. She had received nearly $2 million in cash, 3 homes, and years of monthly support. A judge found her in contempt of court for repeatedly violating a gag order and sentenced her to 30 days in jail in December of 2013. From behind bars, she told a Dallas television station, "Am I angry? Yes. I missed 6 years of my son's life, and I cannot get those years back." In May of 2017, she filed a $60 million lawsuit in Los Angeles describing what she called soul killer, a combination of torture, deprivation, and brainwashing. Harvey's attorney called it meritless and completely false. The case was dismissed in February of 2018 on jurisdictional grounds because the divorce had occurred in Texas. She never refiled. Marjorie Bridges has a story most people have never heard in full. Her first husband was Jim Townsend, a Memphis kingpin sentenced to life in federal prison for conspiring to distribute illegal substances. Marjorie was investigated by federal law enforcement and was never charged. Her second relationship was also connected to someone with a criminal background. Steve Harvey first saw her at a comedy club in Memphis in the late 1980s. She walked in late and sat in the front row. He stopped his entire act and told the room he was going to marry her one day. She recalled, "He was just staring at me. I thought I was going to become part of the show." They dated briefly and separated. Harvey was too broke. Both married other people. The reconnect happened in 2005 when Big Boom told Harvey directly, "The only time I've ever seen you happy was when you were with that woman Marjorie." They married on June 25, 2007. He adopted her 3 children, Morgan, Jason, and Lori. He told People, "The Lord saved my soul. Marjorie saved my life." But redemption does not come with a guarantee of peace. Because while his marriage was quietly becoming the foundation of everything he was, his professional life was about to hand him the single most humiliating moment in the history of live television. And the cruelest part of it was that the mistake was not entirely his fault. The night the crown fell, Harvey was hosting the Miss Universe pageant at the Axis at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas on December 20, 2015. He had wanted this global platform for years. He was prepared and confident. And then he read from a card. Miss Universe 2015 is Miss Colombia. Ariadna Gutierrez was crowned. The tiara was placed on her head. 2 full minutes of live celebration broadcast to more than 190 countries passed before anything changed. Then Harvey walked back out. He held up the card and said, "I will take responsibility for this. It was my mistake. Miss Universe 2015 is from the Philippines." Staff physically removed the crown from Gutierrez and placed it on Pia Wurtzbach while cameras captured every second of it in front of the entire watching world. Harvey revealed afterwards that the scorecard had been redesigned at the last minute without informing him. The winner's name sat in the lower right corner exactly where his thumb rested while reading, and the layout made the first runner-up appear to be the primary announcement. Design analysts compared its confusing structure to the infamous butterfly ballot from the 2000 presidential election. His apology tweet compounded things when he misspelt both countries before deleting and correcting the post. On Kevin Hart's podcast in 2021, he said, "I had just written on my vision board that I was asking God to increase my global brand. In 48 hours, my name had been Googled 4 billion times." Gutierrez told a Spanish-language network, "In 4 minutes, they destroy your dreams and throw them in the trash." By 2020, she had fully reconciled with Harvey and said, "I love him and it wasn't his fault." What almost nobody reported was what happened in the private negotiations afterwards. Harvey told executives he wanted ownership. He hosted 6 more Miss Universe pageants from 2016 through 2021. The woman whose crown was removed in front of the world forgave him faster than the internet ever did. Harvey survived the most viral television mistake of his generation and converted it into 6 more years of work. But what was quietly building in the background was an accusation far more personal than a misread card. While Harvey was collecting accolades on global stages, a group of comedians were about to go on record and say that some of what made him famous never belonged to him at all. Bologna, a Ford Tempo, and $50. On October 8, 1985, Steve Harvey walked into Hilarity's Comedy Club in Cleveland for an amateur open mic night. He won the contest and walked out with $50 in his hand. He cried the entire drive home, not because $50 was significant money, but because something had been born inside him that he had never felt before. He described it this way: "I won $50, cried all the way home. I said, 'No, you don't understand. I was born tonight. I'm gonna go do this the rest of my life.'" He quit his insurance job the very next morning with a wife and infant twins depending on him at home. What followed was 3 years Harvey has described as the most crushing period of his entire life. After his first marriage collapsed and comedy gigs were unreliable and poorly paid, he found himself with nowhere to go. He lived out of a 1976 Ford Tempo with an igloo cooler packed with ice, bologna, and cheese sitting in the back seat. He hung his suits carefully in the rear window so they would stay pressed enough to wear on stage. He showered at gas station bathrooms, hotel lobbies, and public pool facilities. He earned as little as $50 a week and gave 75% of that to his estranged family. He stole fuel from gas stations to reach comedy bookings across the state. In a People magazine interview, he said, "It was so disheartening. A week is really the maximum you can do. This was 3 years. It was rock bottom. But even in my darkest days, I had faith it would turn around." He also described a voice that came to him during those years. "If you keep going, I'm going to take you places you've never been. Don't quit. You're almost there." In another interview, he revealed what that period permanently installed inside him. "I've been running from poverty so long because I was in it for so long. I guess I am kind of afraid of it going bad." That fear never left. It became the engine running silently beneath every business decision he ever made. His career took real shape when he became a finalist in the 2nd annual Johnny Walker National Comedy Search in April of 1990, competing alongside a young Judd Apatow and a stand-up named Ray Romano. That competition led to Showtime at the Apollo, where he became permanent host in 1993, a role he held for 7 consecutive years. The Steve Harvey Show on the WB launched in 1996, ran for 6 seasons and 122 episodes, and won more than a dozen NAACP Image Awards. The original Kings of Comedy tour launched in December of 1997 with Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Bernie Mac, and D.L. Hughley. It grossed $37 million over 2 years, making it the highest-grossing comedy tour in American history at the time. Harvey gave his last stand-up performance on August 2, 2012 at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas after Marjorie told him God was preparing something he could not yet see. He trusted her and walked away from the stage that had literally saved his life. He never returned, and that decision may have been the smartest move he ever made, because the world he left behind was about to turn on him in ways that no amount of television ratings could protect him from. The Stolen Punchline. On January 3, 2024, Cat Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay, and more than 33 million people watched. In the middle of that conversation, Williams turned his aim directly at Steve Harvey and accused him of building a significant portion of his career on material that never belonged to him. Mark Curry had been making this argument publicly since December of 2019. Curry starred in ABC's Hagen with Mr. Cooper from 1992 to 1997, playing a black comedian in suits working as a vice principal inside a school. Harvey's WB sitcom launched in 1996 starred a black comedian in suits working as a vice principal inside a school. Curry did not frame that as a coincidence. The specific joke at the heart of the dispute was a Halloween routine Curry performed on his 1999 Comedy Central special about being so poor as a child that he wore a cardboard UPS delivery box as a costume. In 2015, a segment with a nearly identical premise and structure appeared on Harvey's daytime talk show. TMZ posted both recordings side by side. The similarities were very hard to argue away. Angela Means, known for playing Felicia in the film Friday, confirmed in June of 2024 that the pattern was real. She said, "Steve Harvey will steal a joke. It was blatant." She described Curry as one of the most gifted improvisers in black stand-up history, a performer whose ideas arrived so quickly that other comedians borrowed from him almost reflexively. She urged Curry to let it go, but did not dispute a single thing he had said about Harvey. A separate accusation involves Bernie Mac. Mac told GQ magazine in 2003 that Harvey or a representative had approached the producers of Ocean's 11 in 2001 and offered to play Mac's role for a lower salary in order to take the part from him. Radio host Ed Lover confirmed in April of 2024 that Mac had personally told him the story and had been genuinely hurt by it. Harvey's responses have been sweeping rejections without ever addressing the specific footage. He told TMZ in 2020, "Never stole a joke in 35 years. Come to me like a man." At InvestFest in August of 2024, he made comments about lions and small dogs that drew immediate backlash. A month later on the Pivot podcast, he quietly admitted, "I probably shouldn't have said anything. We're not in the same league, Doug." Joke theft in stand-up has almost no legal remedy because individual jokes receive virtually no copyright protection. Harvey's move to television hosting placed him permanently beyond the reach of community enforcement. The accusations remain unresolved and the footage remains online for anyone to find. But before you decide what to make of the comedian, you need to understand the empire the comedian became. Because the distance between a 1976 Ford Tempo and $200 million is one of the most remarkable journeys in the history of American entertainment. The running man's empire. Harvey has one quote about money that explains everything. He said, "I'm running from homelessness. I cannot ever be in that position again. If my show gets canceled, I've got 3 more. This is not ambition in the conventional sense. This is survival operating at the highest possible level, wearing a custom suit." By 2024, his net worth stood at approximately $200 million. Family Feud has been his financial anchor since September of 2010. He earns roughly $10 million per season and is the longest-running and highest-rated host in the show's 50-year history. Under his stewardship, it became the first nationally syndicated program to grow its ratings for 7 consecutive years. He launched Family Feud Africa in 2020, which became the #1 game show in both South Africa and Ghana within its first 2 seasons. The Steve Harvey Morning Show reaches nearly 7 million weekly listeners across more than 100 radio stations. His book Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man sold over 2.8 million copies, spent 64 weeks on a New York Times bestseller list with 23 of those weeks at #1, and was adapted into Think Like a Man in 2012, which grossed $96 million on a $12 million budget. In 2017, he founded Steve Harvey Global, made early investments in Stripe, SpaceX, Coinbase, and GitHub, and launched supplement line Levate You alongside menswear brand H by Steve Harvey. His Atlanta estate, originally built by Tyler Perry, was purchased in June of 2020 for $15 million. His Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation runs an annual mentoring weekend every Father's Day for boys growing up without fathers. The Disney Dreamers Academy has selected 100 high school students annually since 2008 from more than 10,000 applicants, directly impacting over 1,800 teenagers. Harvey also personally funded 8 full scholarships to Kent State University totaling $736,000 in memory of a student named Devin Moore. The most politically divisive chapter of his public life came on January 13, 2017, when he met President-elect Donald Trump at Trump Tower. He said the Obama transition team had encouraged the meeting and that he pitched a plan to convert closing inner-city schools into STEM learning centers with HUD Secretary Ben Carson. The backlash from black communities was severe and personal. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "I was being called names I have never been called. Uncle Tom, a coon, a sellout, because I went to see this man." On his radio show, he told listeners directly, "A lot of y'all hurt me. You really did." His viral jump speech, filmed on a phone in a television studio and viewed 58 million times without a single dollar of advertising behind it, captures everything about who he is underneath everything else. He told that audience, "Every successful person in this world has jumped. You cannot just exist in this life. You have got to try to live. When you first jump, your parachute will not open right away. You're going to hit them rocks. But eventually the parachute has to open. That is a promise from God." He said all of that as a man who had slept in a car, eaten bologna from a cooler, been dragged through tabloids for 30 years, and announced the wrong winner on live television in front of 200 countries. The speech did not come from a script or teleprompter. It came from the only place anything genuinely real ever comes from. And to understand where that place is, you have to go back to where everything started. The boy who wrote it down. Broderick Stephen Harvey was born on January 17, 1957 in Welsh, West Virginia. His parents named him after television actor Broderick Crawford, the star of a show called Highway Patrol. Before the boy could form a complete sentence, they had already pointed him toward a screen. His father, Jesse, was a coal miner who later sold insurance. His mother, Eloise, was a Sunday school teacher. The family relocated to Cleveland, Ohio, and settled on East 112th Street, a block that would eventually be renamed Steve Harvey Way in 2015. Long after the boy who grew up there had made every single doubt irrelevant. Young Steve Harvey had a stutter so severe that other children gave him a cruel nickname. They called him VA Vroom because his words crashed and stalled before they could escape his mouth. A man who worked at the neighborhood deli quietly taught him to repeat his thoughts silently 3 times before speaking, and to speak on the exhale. When Steve managed it correctly, the man gave him candy. That deli counter became an unlikely classroom. Harvey later said, "A big part of my sense of humor came out of my stuttering. I said, 'Yes, I stutter, but I can make you laugh.'" The story that defined his entire childhood happened in 6th grade. The teacher asked every student to write what they wanted to be when they grew up. Steve Harvey wrote that he wanted to be on television. The teacher read every paper aloud, saved his for last, called him to the front, and publicly humiliated him in front of the entire class.